I should have just driven home after the gig. We'd just finished playing in a cramped village pub. The air was thick with the smell of spilled beer, damp coats, and the noise of overconfident voices. Despite being miles out in the middle of nowhere, well, it was a good gig. The crowd was appreciative, loud, and nicely drunk. Everything a part-time musician would want at the tail end of a long week. We were packing away, cables, mic stands, when she approached. A young woman, well dressed, slightly old-fashioned perhaps, as if she stepped out of a decade that didn't belong to us. She said something complimentary about the set, her voice calm and strangely rehearsed. And for a moment, as I considered just how damned attractive she was, I actually forgot how sentences worked. Her sister lingered a little behind her, equally striking in a different way, sharper lines, a colder beauty. I'll be honest, both had caught my attention during the gig, and not just mine. I'd seen my bandmates sneaking the same glances, and we'd all thought the same thing. They were out of our league by at least 3 tax brackets. Just up the lane, the first sister said. A very small after-gathering. After-gathering. Oh, okay. You must all come and play for us. What do you think? Well, we didn't hesitate. You don't tell 2 extraordinary beautiful women no when you're a single 30-year-old musician with enough ego to try your luck and enough loneliness to justify the poor decision. I assumed she meant a cottage, mulled wine, a dozen friends, us being roped into an acoustic sing-along while someone's aunt fell asleep in an armchair and snored out a tune. A harmless assumption. But as we walked up the lane, the night opened around us. Something huge took shape behind the trees. A gatehouse loomed out first, and beyond it, a long path descended between twisted oaks. The branches coated with an early frost, and at the end of that path stood an estate so large, I wondered if perhaps it had its own weather system. Tall windows, ivy strangling the stone, warm light glowing through the old glass like eyes half open. Some house, I muttered, though I felt suddenly dressed for the wrong century. Inside, the air smelled of wood smoke, or something floral I couldn't quite name, something faintly medicinal, like petals left too long between the pages of a Bible. There was no gathering, no guests. Just the 2 sisters and their parents waiting by the hearth, impeccably polite, speaking that slightly out-of-time cadence of people who spent their whole lives reading more than talking. You know the sort. They didn't even acknowledge the absence of the band, or the fact that the party was now exactly 1 guest. I expected the others to walk in behind me at any second laughing, rubbing their hands against the cold, but they didn't. I should have made excuses. I should have left right then, claiming an early start or a sick dog or anything. But I didn't. But their presence, soft, magnetic, faintly luminous in the firelight, overrode all of that. Every practical instinct folded like a bad hand at a card game. So I played again. Just me, quietly in the grand sitting room. And the house listened. I could feel it. The acoustics were impossibly clear, as if the walls were tuned to me, to the guitar, swallowing any mistakes and feeding back warmth. Sometime after midnight, an hour that felt stretched thin, as though time had been pulled taut over the roof somehow, she led me to this small room overlooking the grounds. We talked, laughed, drifted through a conversation that felt strangely familiar, as though we were reminiscing, rather than meeting. She kissed me first, I pretended surprise. A hand slipped into mine. A moment later she led me, bold as brass, back into the main sitting room where their parents sat like a portrait that had never been taken down. We're going to bed now, Sam and I, she announced lightly. It startled me more than the kiss. Not the going to bed part. A part my brain had already sprinted several laps ahead. But the way she said it, unembarrassed, declarative to her parents of all people. They barely blinked, simply nodded with a gentle civility that actually made me feel uneasy. Aristocracy, I told myself, eccentricity, rules and morals for the rest of us, freedoms from them for them. Huh? Her room was vast, high ceiling, frost-laced windows, velvet canopy heavy enough to crush a horse. Huh? I felt curated somehow, preserved, like a room in a National Trust house, in which you weren't supposed to touch anything. Afterwards, I slept, deeply at first. But then I woke. Not fully at first. Just enough for the sound to filter in. Someone downstairs, presumably her parents, were playing the piano. And they were trying to reproduce the melodies I played earlier. My own sequences, my own distinctive chord choices for my own songs. Stumbling over them with hesitant, wrong-footed notes. When I checked to the side of me, she was asleep, breathing softly. But the house felt awake though, listening, repeating. Morning came eventually. I woke alone. The pillow beside me was ice cold, as though she had risen hours ago. Well, perhaps had never really been there. I dressed and descended the stairs, expecting of the mundane, breakfast, voices, footsteps, some sign of life. The house was seemingly empty. Truly empty. No dishes. No fire. No footprints in the thin dust that had settled across the floorboards. The warm lights from the night before now flickered weakly, as if powered by a memory rather than electricity. I called out. My voice came back wrong. Too loud. Too hollow. Too slightly urgent for my own liking. I moved through the rooms, one by one. The dining room was the worst. Long table was bare except for a delicate film of frost sparkling like powdered glass. No food, no chairs pulled out. No hint that the room had been in use for years. Panic fluttered. I searched the pantry, the so-called servants' corridor, the parlour, nothing. And then, "Be with you in a minute," her voice, faint, casual, drifting from the landing. I turned. She stood at the top of the staircase, but something about her face troubled me. A mismatch. A blend somehow. The softness of the girl I'd spent the night with, but with the sharper cheekbones of her sister. As though the house couldn't quite remember which one I had wanted. "Wait," I began, but she vanished away into a corridor. I should have followed her. Instead, I saw my guitar case by the front door, neatly placed, waiting. I picked it up. Oh, it was heavy. Much heavier than when I'd carried it in. I checked inside, as if it might hold something other than wood and strings. It didn't. Then I heard the piano again. Deep in the house, notes plinking with clumsy desperation, trying to conjure last night's chords. I snapped shut the guitar case. I needed to leave. But me, never being impolite though. I waited for half an hour at the bottom of the stairs for her. Nothing. She was nowhere. The parents were nowhere. And the silence, apart from the sound of the piano, grew heavier, pressing into my chest like a second heartbeat. I went down the stairs, stepped outside into the frosted gardens, The air felt sharper. I looked for the road. Nothing. No path, no drive, no gatehouse, just frost. Frost and brambles, and that house looming behind me. I thought I saw a break in the trees and headed for it, the guitar case feeling heavier by the minute, but the brambles thickened as I approached, knitting together like living fingers. I pushed through, only to emerge right back at the front steps. Again, and again, and again. Every path circled back to the house. Every path I took reconfigured itself, as though it had no interest in ever letting me go. Then I saw her again, at a high opened window, the frost glazing the glass, her face half lit, and again that strange blend, her and her sister, one face composed from two. "Be with you in a minute," she said, the same tone, the same cadence as before. My heart buckled. I turned and ran, brambles tearing at my boots, the frost crunching like bone. But the estate was a labyrinth. Like a knot tied around me, every turn bent back to the same place. Exhausted, trembling, I finally returned to the front door and entered. The house exhaled, as though finally satisfied. And there they were, her parents again, sitting calmly in their chairs in the grand room, serene, patient, as though they'd been waiting years for this particular moment to arrive. The father smiled. "Oh, are you going to play for us again, Sam?" The mother folded her hands, eyes warm and expectant. "Oh, I do hope so." The house had me.